Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Clinic Growth Secrets, where we teach you how to get more patients, make more profit per patient, and show you how to keep them for as long as humanly possible. Guys, today on the show, we have an incredibly special guest. I'm beyond humbled and excited to have him on the show. But before we get to anything, any of the actual knowledge and value that you get from this show, I want to remind you to pay the fee. The fee is very simple. We're not going to charge a credit card. We're not going to ask for monetary donations, although you can PayPal me if you want to, but I'm not going to ask for it. All we ask is that if you get value from the show, that you share it with some colleagues, some friends, some coworkers, whoever you feel like would get value from the show. That is how we grow. We grow by word of mouth. Again, we don't run ads for the show. We don't run ads on the show. Okay. And so if you're a listener, we make you laugh, we make you think, we educate you. We ask that you share these lessons with different people in your life who would also get value from it. That's how we expand our reach. That's how we reach more people. And that's how we bring more lessons back to you here on the show. Okay. And as I said, guys, today's guest is someone that I have personally admired and followed over the last few years. We've been connected through other colleagues indirectly, and I finally got a chance to have a conversation. And I would like to have a warm welcome to Dr. Stephen Franson for being part of our show today. Doc, thanks for being here.
Jeff, it's my pleasure, man. Anytime I can speak to chiropractors, I jump on the opportunity. So appreciate you asking me, man. It's always a privilege.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And for those listening and who are unfamiliar with this man, let me share a little bit with you just to give you a gauge on where he comes from and what he's been able to accomplish in his lifetime. So Dr. Stephen Franson is a true champion of the chiropractic wellness lifestyle, and he packs a deep level of experience from over 20 years of clinical practice. He's an exceptional clinician, passionate teacher, and a dynamic leader inside of the chiropractic profession. He was also listed, get this, as the top 25 most influential chiropractors in the world, not the United States. This is the world of 2017. He's also the founder of The Remarkable Practice, which is an innovative coaching and consulting business for chiropractors. And he also co-founded the Chiro Matchmakers, which puts emphasis on helping chiropractors find the right opportunity at the right place and the right time. And so he runs multiple companies, high-level teams, and still manages to make time for his wife and two kids. Doc, my first question to you, sir, is there anything that you don't do?
Well, I don't make time for my wife and kids. I make time for the 5 businesses that I run in chiropractic. So being a husband and being a dad is my full-time job. And seriously, I've been able to build extraordinary teams around me, and that allows me the privilege of raising some pretty awesome kids and living out a remarkable life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, you've got a deep level of experience and just a massive amount of expertise inside and outside of chiropractic in the business space. And we're going to talk a little bit of both. We're going to talk chiropractic today. We're going to talk business. We're going to talk marketing as we do on the show. But I want to, before we get into like the tactical execution, strategic things, let's take a journey backwards. Okay. I want you to talk and share your journey inside of chiropractic. How did it start? Where did this all begin for you, Doc?
So I get this question a lot, and each time I try to tell it a little more efficiently. But long story short, I had, a classic, incredibly challenging period of my life that turned out to be the biggest blessing in my life. And, I lost my best friend when we were 11 to leukemia. My best friend died of cancer. And it took a long time for this guy to die. So, in my formative years, I watched somebody who I cared a lot about and spent a lot of time with go through the diagnosis and the treatment and just this awful decay and dying process. For anybody who's been through it, they don't need me to describe it. But, everything you're thinking, all the horrors, he went through all of it. And in that period of time, I was observing, even as an 11-year-old, I was watching, I was like, man, everything they do to him, he's getting worse. He's getting weaker and sicker with everything. And, at the end of it, when it was clear that there was, he was not doing well. I just literally asked all these brilliant, giving, loving, serving people who were, they were just doing the best they can with what they know. They were trying to kill a disease without killing a little boy. And I looked at them, I said, listen, everything you do to him, he's getting worse. Is there anything that we can do for him? And they just looked at me and said, no, we're doing everything. There's nothing else that can be done. And it just never sat right with me. So after Patrick died, my dad asked me, how I was doing. And I said, great. I said, what's on your mind? I said, I know what I'm going to be when I grow up. And he said, that's great. What do you want to be? I said, I'm going to be a doctor. And he asked me, what kind of doctor you want to be? I said, I don't know, but I'm going to be the doctor that makes people stronger. And that to me was the inflection point. From then on, I was just fascinated with everything. What do successful human beings do? Like, how do they live their lives? And at that point, I knew nothing about chiropractic or anything about the wellness lifestyle, et cetera. But that was exactly the moment I discovered my purpose. And fast forward, I was in college, I was playing sport in college, and I got injured. And I was actually in a sports medical program, and I thought I wanted to be an orthopedic. And these guys, they couldn't do anything for me. I just blew out my shoulder, and I lost my senior year in sports, and 35 pounds of muscle, and frankly, my identity at that point. And my dad dragged me, and I mean that, to his chiropractor in Boston, who, had to put up with me, the educated skeptic, who was already taught that there was nothing that these quacks could do to help me. And you know where the story goes. I got my shoulder back, I got my life back. And that's where he won my trust. And I couldn't help but notice that this guy was passionate about what he was doing. He was happy, loved his life, loved his work. And that was really important for a 18, 19-year-old young man at that point, to see somebody who was so passionate about what they do. And so he was the one who taught me about how the body really works and how the body really heals. And he told me he thought I could be a great chiropractor. He said, my job's simple, as I'm the doctor that makes people stronger. And I never looked back after that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So it was a mix of a very traumatic experience combined with a little bit of, what I would consider a very pivotal years of one's life at 18 to 19. Like, which direction am I going to go with life? Where am I going to take my career? And finding that individual who was able to basically bring that message full circle. I'm the doctor that makes people stronger.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
That's phenomenal.
Good. That's amazing. And so then, obviously you went to school, all that kind of fun stuff. And then, you started your first practice. The first practice you have, if I remember right, was the original Remarkable Practice. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. Okay. My wife has got to get some credit in there. She and I met at the first quarter party at Life University 30 years ago.
Sure.
So she deserves all the congratulations there.
Yep.
As we celebrate 25 years of marriage last week.
Congrats. Yep.
Yeah, thanks, man. We've been together ever since the first quarter party, and it's been awesome. So I've never known chiropractic without her, and we've done everything together. So she's just an awesome partner, and I get all the credit. So she requires some moment in the limelight here.
Sure.
So we created the original Remarkable Practice in Boston, which is where I'm from. She's from Sweden, so we decided to stay in one of our towns so we could take care of each other's family, or one of the families. So we inspired both her sisters to become chiropractors, and they did, and they both married chiropractors. So we got the rest of the family covered. And so the original, Remarkable Practice in Boston was blessed. We were tremendously successful. We built a massive practice and had a lot of fun and made a big impact in a community. It was, that success I will credit, a serious commitment to clinical care, just getting great clinical outcomes. A lot of patient education, and just equipping these patients and giving them back, empowering them with control over their destiny, and empowering them and giving them back personal responsibility for their health. And then just building world-class teams that ran world-class systems. And a big component of the practice success was our associate doctor program. So we had 39 associate doctors over about a 17-year period. And that's really where I realized that what I'm really good at is coaching. I'm a good chiropractor because I'm a good coach. I coach human beings on how to be successful human beings. And I'm a great chiropractic coach because I love to coach chiropractors on how to be more successful chiropractors. So that's where I fell in love with it. And that's really where the Remarkable Practice coaching business was born.
That's beautiful. And so before we're going to transition into a little bit of the Remarkable Practice and again, going into the marketing, sales, business ideas. But before we transition, I want to talk and unpack your first practice a little bit. Okay. If you had to think back right now on this podcast today, what do you feel like was your biggest lesson, or you felt like maybe a failure, loss at the time of starting your business that later became a huge lesson for you and big takeaway as you matured in the business?
That's easy. I built a job, not a business. So, at the end of the day, we were super successful according to everybody looking at us from the outside. Big practice, big house, big life, all that, but we were smoked. My wife and I just recognized that we were just bench pressing this thing every Monday. And, it turned into the Franson show, and, it was unsustainable. We had scaled it, right? So scaling's one thing, but scalability is one thing. Durability is another thing, right? So scalability means that you can give more, love more, serve more, make a bigger impact and a bigger income, but it doesn't have to all be done by you, right? It's where you're leveraging other people and team members and technology. And, that we definitely scaled to get to the size we're at, but we had no durability. And durability means that you can give more, love more, serve more, make a bigger impact and a bigger income, even in your absence. In other words, you can get a handle on your schedule. You can be home for dinner and bedtime and bath time, right? So you can go on vacation without having to shut the practice down, or God forbid anything happens to you and you can't be there, the place grinds to a halt. So there was no durability, and that was a big pain point, and that was where I failed. So I spent 10 years creating that monster, and I had to spend the next 12 years undoing that and finally turning it into the remarkable business.
I was just going to ask you, that was my kind of follow-up question there. So it took you 10 years to build it. It was, would you call it, and I've heard this term thrown around, would you call it at the time it was a personality driven business? It was all driven by, you and your wife at that time?
The short answer is yes. The truer answer is no.
Okay.
We built a very principled, very, very hard driving patient education, but we had such extraordinary trust from our patients, and that was where the personality would come in. It's just like, at the end of the day, I had to learn that it was, to go from being a laborer to a leader, is I had to get smaller while my team got bigger. And I don't just mean the numbers, I mean just edifying and elevating everybody around me. And, they were already giving me all the credit. And, I had to spend all of my energy making sure that I was edifying and elevating my team, so that, it wasn't about the adjustor, it was about the adjustment. And it wasn't about the chiropractor, it was about the chiropractic.
Got it. And so if somebody's listening and they find themselves in their similar position, they basically feel like they built themselves a job, right? And they need to, at this point, they want to claw themselves out, right? Would you say that, like, along the way, you're going to lose some patients because you're not the main face, and that's okay? Like how do we go about mentally knowing that, like, we need to re-engineer this business?
You're going to lose some patients no matter what you do. So you might as well do it right. So, there's a 20-60-20 rule here. Everybody knows the 80-20 principle, right? The Pareto principle. I teach the 20-60-20 rule. 20% of people, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're not going to start, or they're not going to stay. And the far left-hand side or right-hand side on the other end of the spectrum, 20% of people, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, they're going to start, they're going to stay. You can't screw it up. Really, it's the 60% in the middle that you need to focus on. And that's what you need to design everything about your business, about your practice. And that's where all of your mind share needs to be. So you design that business for that 60%, and they just need your leadership. They just need to know from you, it's like, this is the best way to do it. And stop worrying about the other 20% on either side, because, like I said, there's nothing you can do about it, right? And that's like insanity, like worrying about the things that you can't influence, right? So shift your influence and create the practice, and have a net view of your career, not just, oh my gosh, if I make a change, Susie's not going to be happy and she's going to drop out and she's going to tell Karen and Karen's going to tell everybody, right? So, don't think like that. That's just really not mission-driven, purpose-driven thinking. You want to build the business that's going to support your remarkable life, not compete with it.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Very similar, 20-60-20. The famous sales coach Jordan Belfort once said that 20% of the people that enter your funnel will convert no matter what you do, even if you throw rocks up on the sales call. 60% can go either way, and 20%, no matter what you do ever, will never buy from you whatsoever.
Are you kidding? I never heard that before.
It's very, very similar to his stuff. That is, I love it. That's a really good way.
I met Jordan a month ago.
No.
I was at F1, the F1 race in Miami. Fan. I was there with my son Sam for his 18th birthday, and his best buddy Landon Miner, who's Dr. Alan Miner, my best friend and business partner in Chiro Matchmakers, his son. I brought them to the Formula One race. We were in line to go see Post Malone play at the Hard Rock Cafe party.
No way.
Right in the middle of the track, and Jordan was right behind us. Like, we had to just
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, what a great guy. He's a riot. He's a little guy, but he is just he
He
was a riot. He was so good with the boys.
He is absolute right. I've learned a ton from just studying his work and his material on sales and stuff of that nature. And I just thought that was absolutely hilarious that it was that 20-60-20
All right, I'm
same
gonna have to
principle.
chase that down, so I guess I have to stop calling that the Franson principle or somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, his is very similar. I mean, don't quote me that it's exactly like that, but it's still left and right side, and you got to focus on the middle. It's the same idea.
We use that all the time. I mean, if you look at your practice, just look at your population. There's a 20-60-20 rule that applies almost all the time, and it really brings a lot of peace of mind and clarity.
It does. It's back to like I teach a principle inside of our program. It's basically acceptable metrics, So like we're very acquisition focused, obviously at CGA. So it's like when I'm working and consulting doctors, they're like, well, like my show rate is like, from booking confirmed, like a confirmed appointment to show, it's only like 75%. I'm like, dude, that's phenomenal. Like that's acceptable. You know what I mean? Like if we have our acceptable metric of trying to get 100% show rate, like we will drive ourselves insane.
Right.
And that's, yep, 100%. So that's awesome there. All right. So that's a big piece of knowledge there, the 20-60-20 principle. So let's transition a little bit now. Okay, out of the actual clinic, the original Remarkable Practice, into the consulting business, the Remarkable Practice. You are really known in the space as the systems guy. Okay. And so I want to talk about how that all encompasses within the Remarkable Practice, like just dive deep inside of the Remarkable Practice for us right now.
Yeah, I love taking complicated or complex ideas and trying to simplify them. I'm a simple guy, so I like things simple. There's constructs and laws of the jungle and systems that we create for everything. I think everything should be systematized. It's more efficient and effective, and it's predictable, right? So you get these predictable positive outcomes. So everything that we do in the Remarkable Practice is highly systematized. So we can focus on the people, not the process. And ultimately, that's where success lives, I think. So, one of the constructs that we've created for the Remarkable Practice is the 4 seasons of the chiropractic career, right? So this construct brought an level of organization to a conversation that chiropractors have been trying to have, I think, for 100 years. And really all small businesses and entrepreneurs have had to have. So we say that there's 4 seasons of the chiropractic career. There's launch, build, scale, and exit. So launch is your first year out in practice. Build is when you are the owner operator. In other words, you are the caregiver and you own the business. Like you're the single doctor in there that's delivering care. Scale is when you add multiple doctors. So either partners or associate doctors, et cetera, and you take your job and turn it into a business, right? That's where you actually get to that scalability, durability, and eventually transferability, right? Which means you've built an asset for sale, which brings us into the 4th season, which is exit, which is when a doctor's getting ready to sell their practice, sell their business, right? So they're looking for a successor, they're looking for a buyer, they're looking to make a profitable and graceful exit.
Got it. And so within the business, I'm assuming that obviously as always, you've got yourself a wicked team. And so how do you find yourself in the Remarkable Practice nowadays? What's your main focus? Obviously managing team. And then do you do any additional coaching, or what does that look like for Dr. Franson?
Yeah. So I am the CEO of it. And my role as the CEO is to, number one, create an environment where people are going to be more successful with me than without me. Number 2 is to build world-class teams, right? So if you ask me what I do for a living on an airplane, I'll tell you I build world-class teams. It's a great conversation starter. And number 3 is the CEO, you're the chief energy officer. So my job is to collect and direct the limited resources of our team. And, that's time, energy, focus, and money, right? So my job is to be the human, magnifying glass, capturing everything and pointing that laser beam where I want the fire to start, right? So that's the job of the CEO. But I'm also on the accountability chart of the business as a coach. So I love to coach, right? So just like as the CEO in our practice, even though I had all those doctors working with us, I never stopped adjusting. Like I love to adjust. I love to care for patients. It energizes me for everything else. It's the same thing with coaching. I love to coach. So I coach chiropractors. I have a tendency to coach some of our higher level coaching clients, right? So have more sophisticated businesses and needs, right? So we have what we call the Hall of Justice. We have awesome coaches. We have about 12 coaches in our business now and growing. And we organize all of our content, all of our clients, and all of our coaches into those 4 seasons, and they specialize in launch and helping doctors create a 7-figure foundation, right? So then there's some coaches that specialize in delivering the content that we've created for build, which is all about building your practice, right? So that's about creating a 7-figure revenue, right? So, and then there's scale, which is we have our coaches that specialize in helping people create that scalability, durability, figure out the associate doctor thing, create that transferability so that they can do a 7-figure profit, right? And then there's the coaches that specialize in exit, right? So your exit strategy and getting your exit readiness so that you not only get the highest sales price, but you keep the most money, right? So, and that's about making $1 million exit, right? So everything, as you can see, is super well organized, and we have systems that drive all of it.
I love it. I love it. And so you yourself are just basically involved in more, I would assume, of the scale exit side, high level coaching, like what to do, how to make the most for, and like you said, a graceful exit for all the work you've done leading up to that moment.
Yeah, don't get me wrong though. I mean, you put me in front of the room at the remarkable conversion immersion, and that's our live events.
Yeah.
I love to do a day 1 with a new patient, first 5 minutes with a new patient. I love to train this stuff, right? So I love it's magical. Every step of the process is magical, and I have a love affair with chiropractic and the business of chiropractic. So I love every line of every song, right? So the reality is that they've got to drag me off the stage. I love to coach, I love to teach, I love to train. But yes, my coaching clients, I focus on those really higher level docs who are probably in the top 20 percentile of chiropractic.
Love it. Beautiful. Well said. And one of my favorite quotes in business is that, like you just said too, although it's high level thinking, you're working with the exits and the scale, the advanced people in this world, they never skip the basics. You know what I mean? You're never going to look over that day 1, day 2. You never skip the basics. That's what you got to the advance. You know what I mean? So that's beautiful.
Fundamentals. If you're an athlete, you get it. It's blocking and tackling. It's batting practice. It's ground balls. It's pop flies. You never stop shooting free throws. You hit a bucket of balls every Saturday. I mean, you name your metaphor. Most of mine are sports metaphors.
That's right though. I mean, that's right. It's the fundamentals of everything that build. I was listening to Jim Collins. If you're familiar with Jim Collins, the management guru. Yeah, management guru. He says that. I was listening to him this morning. He said mediocrity is basically just chronic inconsistency.
That's right. That's right.
So
in the CEO program, one of our laws of the jungle is consistency is the new intensity.
For real.
So if you're going to go from laborer to leader, consistency is the new intensity.
That's right. That's right. Well said. Well said. Well, before we started the show, and I want to make sure we touch on enough things that we do have a limited time, folks. Dr. Franson and I, we could probably sit here for a good 6 hours, but unfortunately, we just don't have that kind of time. So the one thing you had said before we pressed record and really began this podcast, right? You wanted to dive into what you called the 5 counterintuitive points of opportunity in a market of uncertainty or in a landscape of uncertainty. You want to unpack that for us right now and then just kind of dive into those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just did an episode on our podcast. So when I hope you guys are already listeners to the Remarkable CEO podcast for chiropractors. So if you're not, please start today. If you liked what we talked about today, you're going to love the podcast. If you didn't like today, you're going to hate the podcast. So it's Dr. Pete Camiolo and I, who's my partner in the Remarkable CEO program. He's just awesome. So we just recently did an episode where we wanted to address, this, what appears to be a season of economic uncertainty ahead, right? So, the reality is, Jeff, we just came limping out of this 2-year, 15-round heavyweight match fight with COVID, right? This COVID catastrophe. And even when you win a 15-round heavyweight fight, you're still limping out, right? So, our doctors, I think chiropractic in general did really, really well. I'm just so proud of how our doctors navigated this incredible period of time. Like, chiropractic is definitely stronger for it now on the other side of it. Our doctors did beautifully, right? So the reality is this last 12 months has been a bit of a breather, right? So it's been a renaissance period, right? So it's just like the world opened back up, people dumped back into the marketplace. Hopefully they dumped into your marketplace if you're listening now, right? So, but the truth is that we're coming into a new season, right? And at best, it's a season of economic uncertainty. So, you always want to get ahead of these things, right? So, if you know the truth, and the truth is that fortunes are made in the downturns, you recognize that if there is a downturn, that means that there's lots of opportunity, and you should be asking yourself, where are the opportunities? Now, I'm a pathological optimist by nature. So, I always have a good attitude and I go into it. I love a good fight. I love a battle. And I think we're facing one right now. And I just want to make sure that everybody has that same perspective, because perspective shapes your attitude, right? And, your attitude might not change the situation, but it'll change your experience of it, which of course, that shifts your physiology, which shifts your performance, which shifts your outcomes. So take the opportunity right now to look ahead and be like, don't be surprised if things get crazy. If things get weird, are you ready to take advantage of the opportunities ahead, right? So, I've identified what I call the 5 counterintuitive opportunities ahead. And I want to make sure that everybody's wide awake and positioned properly for these opportunities ahead, right? So we won't have time to go over all 5, but I think I can just probably go higher level. And because this is a marketing podcast, maybe double click on a couple of them. Okay. So the first one is your brand, right? There's an opportunity right now to make sure that you're positioned properly in the marketplace, right? So can you imagine if somebody had said to you 6 months before COVID hit, listen, you're really, really going to want to talk a lot about immune system and immunocompromise and the relationship between your lifestyle and your immune function, and the relationship between the spine, the nervous system, and the immune system and neuroimmunity. You're really going to want to lean in, right? Like, you want to position yourself in the marketplace as like, listen, if you want to have a strong immune system, you're going to have a strong nervous system. If you want a strong nervous system, you need to have a healthy spine. So, it's like, can you imagine like if somebody had said, listen, for 6 months, that's all you talk about? Can you imagine how differently it would have been coming into that, Pearl Harbor moment of the COVID catastrophe? Well, here's what we're facing right now is we're facing what promises to be a pretty stressful period, right? So, are you positioned properly in the marketplace? Like, so by positioning, I mean brand positioning, right? So, and your brand is not what you say to your community about your business. Your brand is really what your community says about your business. So what does your community say about your business? Like, if I were to walk around town and interview 100 people and pointed at your business, what would they say about your business? Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it? Right? So what problems do you solve? The purpose of a business is to solve a problem for another person. What problems do you solve as a business? Right? So what would they say about you? If you're checking yourself right now and being like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't even think they're talking about me, right? What an opportunity. Like, right now, don't wait. You're already late. Don't wait. Right? Position yourself in the marketplace properly so that you're attracting those people that are going to have problems to solve. Personally, I recognize that, the definition of wellness is the body's ability to adapt readily and appropriately to stress. Okay. So most people know they're stressed. Most people know they're going to be more stressed. Most people know stress causes sickness. Nobody knows that their nervous system helps them cope with and adapt to stress. And absolutely nobody knows that the chiropractor is the expert on your healthcare team that makes sure that your nervous system is optimized. So check yourself on your brand positioning. Number 2, in times of economic uncertainty, people very often make the mistake, businesses make the mistake of trying to control outflows in their business. So business financials, fundamentals are, there's inflows, there's outflows, there's profit, right? So inflows is the monies that are coming in, revenues coming into the business. Outflows are your expenses, your costs, right? So, and then profit is whatever is left over, right? So if you feel that it's uncertain what the inflows are going to look like, businesses try to control the outflows, right? So they start cutting back. And guess what's one of the first things they start cutting back on? Jeff, this is going to make you cringe, but don't worry, I'm going to make you smile. Because the first thing they do is they cut back on their marketing spend. Okay. This is a fatal error. Okay. So the truth is that this is not, a good marketing business strategy. This is a terrible marketing business strategy, right? So ultimately, you shouldn't be turning off your marketing or turning down your marketing, because the truth is that a lot of businesses are going to be doing that all around you, which means that really noisy marketplace is going to get quiet. So you want to turn up your marketing. You want to ramp up your marketing, turn up your marketing spend, push your chips in, invest in your marketing more than ever now, because you're going to be able to make a lot of noise in a quiet marketplace. And it's kind of the double whammy here, or benefit, because you're actually going to get more bang for your buck in today's marketplace, right? So as everybody starts to pull back on their marketing spend, I'm going to encourage you to turn up your marketing spend. Okay. Number 3, another error business owners make, especially big businesses and definitely publicly traded businesses, is to control those outflows of those expenses of those costs. One of the first places they look at is marketing. The second place they look at is personnel, overhead associated with payroll. So what ends up happening is they start laying people off. Well, if you're anything like me, you're always trying to find A players. And this last 12 months, there's no historical precedent for how difficult it's been to find and hire A players, right? So this is the most challenging hiring environment we've ever seen in history, right? So if these businesses are going to be laying off people, there's going to be A players in the mix. That talent pool is going to start filling up. So this is the time to invest in building your team. Go hire those A players and build that world-class team around you. I know that's what I'm doing. Okay. So if you know the difference between working in your business and working on your business, in the Remarkable Practice, especially in our CEO program, we invite people to work above your business. Take a 3-year view of your business and know what success looks like 3 years from now, and make decisions and investments today that will predictably manifest that vision 3 years out. Now is the time to be building your world-class team. Number 4, historically, businesses have gone one of two ways with this. A mistake businesses make when things are uncertain economically is they start cutting their prices. Things start going on sale and they start reducing their prices, which is called a race to the bottom. Okay. So in an effort to try to claw back or maintain their market share. If you look back at like previous recessions, what's interesting is recessions typically happen every 7 years in this country. We haven't had one for 14 years. If you look back 2008, 2009, 2010, historically, the businesses that cut their prices, they never came out of the downturn. They didn't survive. Businesses that did what I'm recommending, which is turn up your prices, increase your prices, they actually, when the rebound comes back in, they succeed hugely. Okay. So guys, face it, these are inflationary times. Everything's more expensive. People are paying more for everything. Why shouldn't they be paying more for our services? Don't reduce your prices, increase your prices. And finally, number 5, for the entrepreneurs that are listening right now, if you're listening to me like Franson, I'm a hardcore entrepreneur. I love risk. It energizes me. I'm in that 15 percentile that's just actually, I love to build businesses. I like to create things from vapor. I love the challenge of making it rain, attraction, conversion, retention, team building. I love all this stuff, right? So have you thought about building an enterprise? In other words, multiple clinics, right? So here's what I know to be true is there's going to be businesses that are not going to be able to make it through another 15-round heavyweight match, right? Mm-hmm. And there'll be chiropractic businesses that won't be able to make it through if things get weird, right? So truth is we can't afford to lose one chiropractor. So as I said, the job of the CEO is to create an environment where people are more successful with you than without you. In other words, creating that true win-win-win dynamic, where one of the biggest blessings in that chiropractor's life would be if you came alongside them and said, hey, you know what? Together we go further. You know, when you acquire a business like that, when you do an acquisition, when there's a business that needs a great business leader and business mind to come alongside them and let them be a doctor, that's one of those situations where 1 + 1 = 11 if you do that with the right spirit.
Beautiful. That was about, I don't know, more than an MBA worth of wisdom, at least in the recession category of the MBA, you know. But very also, like you said, for a lot of business owners that are new in the space, very counterintuitive too. Spend more when it's uncertain. What does that mean? You know what I mean? So very well spoken. I know we are a little bit getting close on time. Do we have time for one more?
30 seconds. 30
all
seconds.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to make it quick.
Somebody's already mad at me. I'm already late. So yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to give you this last hypothetical one and we'll be on the way. All right. So first one here. Let's say tomorrow you wake up, you lose everything. You lose everything in chiropractic, your business, your cash, your coaching companies, your relationships, but you still have all the knowledge that you have today. You got 30 days left to get everything back from day 1 to day 30. What are you going to do over those 30 days to build as much back as humanly possible?
I would subscribe to the Remarkable CEO podcast and listen to the first 150 episodes.
Very good. That'll get you started all the way into 4 different phases: launch, build, scale, and exit, baby.
Yeah, truth be told, start with you don't need any money, right? Which is learning how to tell the story. That story that I described, if that story just resonated with you, where, you're positioning yourself in the marketplace, if you recognize that most people in your community, they're in desperate need for what it is you provide. There's no shortage of sickness and suffering in your community. There are new patients everywhere. They have you surrounded. The challenge is that they don't even know you exist, right? They don't know who you are, and they don't know what you do, and they don't know why you do it. So you need to learn how to tell that story, and you need to be able to leverage all platforms, internally, externally, and digitally. You need to learn how to tell that story using all platforms. And if you had to start from nowhere, start with just learning how to go face to face, gripping and grinning, and tell somebody exactly who you are, what you do, and why they should come and see you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Dr. Stephen Franson, everyone. I appreciate you taking the energy, sir, to be a part of the show. I will be linking out some links to, Dr. Stephen's work, his podcast, the Remarkable Practice, all that kind of stuff. Is there anything specifically, if someone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, let's do this. I wrote a book for my son called The Remarkable Practice, the definitive guide to creating the remarkable practice. I'll do a giveaway for you guys. So the first person to write remarkable in all caps in the show notes, if you can get me their name and address, I will shoot that a signed copy of this book out to them. Otherwise, follow us on the podcast. So it's the Remarkable CEO podcast. And then in Facebook, we have an awesome free private group it's called the Remarkable Practice Group. Jump in there, and that's where all of our coaches, clients, and team, awesome, remarkable team, the Remarkables, that's where we hang out. We'd be happy to help you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, sir, I know you got to run. I appreciate all the great energy. This has been a tremendous show. I know I learned a thing or two, as always, from a man of your wisdom. Appreciate you being on here, and hopefully we can do it again.
JVK, it was my pleasure, brother. Appreciate you, man. Keep up the great work.
Appreciate it, sir. Take care.